Hotep, and welcome to Matters of Diversity with Dr. B. Welcome to Friday in our new podcast that we have with our students extraordinaire coming from the PreMed American Medical Student Association. So it's the PreMed AMSA, I think that's what we're calling it. And so it's exciting to see you all today. And I'm glad that you are joining us. Let me introduce my guests for today. First, we have Parsha Songvi, who is a junior at the University of Central Florida, majoring in biomedical sciences and minoring in business. So we'll talk a little bit about what that melding is all about. And he's the treasurer of AMSA. He aspires to be a practicing physician in the future and is excited to share his views on today's podcast. We also have Isha Gosokar. She's a junior at the University of Central Florida, majoring in biomedical sciences as well, and minoring in Spanish. She is currently the vice president of PreMed AMSA here at UCF, and outside of AMSA, she is a co-founder of Period at UCF. She is an inspiring physician and is passionate about reproductive health. Welcome in, Isha. And then we have Daniella Velez, who is a senior at the University of Health Sciences, majoring in health sciences preclinical. And I'll talk a little bit about what that is because I think I just messed that whole thing up when I introduced her. Sorry about that. She is currently the secretary of AMSA and is a Latina born and raised in Puerto Rico. She aspires to become a physician and provide healthcare to underserved Hispanic populations. And last but not least, we have Parth Chandan, and he is a sophomore majoring in biomedical sciences with minor in psychology, aspiring to become a doctor. Now, this is really interesting because each of them have different minors, and so we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about that. He was born in India. However, he lived in the United States on an H-4 visa during his entire educational career. He is currently the chief of staff of AMSA. So see how they put that medical term in there in their own organization that's away from the hospital right now, but the chief of staff and the outreach coordinator of the Refugee and Immigrant Education Initiative. Parth has worked on 2 separate congressional campaigns, writing both immigration and health policy papers, working on getting a bill, S386, passed, which ends country cap regulations for immigrants like himself. What a great start to today, with just listening to your bios and what you all bring to the table. And I just want to ask, before we even get started, how are you all doing? What's going on? How are you personally? Let's start with Parsha.
Doing good. Just excited to go on to spring break in this upcoming week. Take a little bit of break from studying for tests and all the schoolwork that we have going on. So
yeah, some people get to have spring break. Yeah, I get that. Just rubbing it in. That's okay. Isha.
Hi, I'm also doing very well. Like Parsha, I'm excited to go on spring break. It's been like a stressful few weeks just with exams and all of that. So excited to relax and unwind a little bit.
Nice. And Daniella.
Hello, I'm doing well as well. Very excited to be here with you guys today. Like everyone has said, very excited about spring break. I'm also graduating in less than a month. So, just want to finish off strong here at UCF.
Excellent. That is phenomenal. And Parth, bring up the rear.
Thank you so much for having me here, Dr. B. I'm doing great. I'm just getting ready for spring break like everyone else. Have a couple of lab reports due before then, but doing good.
Phenomenal. So as I indicated when I was reading off your bios, you all have different opportunities with regards to what you're doing, and you channeled that with different majors or minors. So your majors are basically the same, but your minors are different. Can you talk a little bit about why you chose the minor that you did and how you think that's going to support you as you become a physician?
Yeah, so I recently picked up a minor in diversity and social inequality as well. And I believe this minor is really important just because like the medical field, you see all types of patients. Like America is known as the melting pot of the United States. And with that, you see patients from all over the world come into your clinic, and you got to be able to know how to treat all of them. There's a lot of health disparities within like how doctors have treated patients in the past. And I believe like with minors such as like diversity and social inequality, you're able to bridge the gap and end those health disparities that you see in the status quo.
Nice, nice. I'm noticing a lot of trophies behind you. Are those yours?
Yeah, I used to do a congressional debate back in high school.
Nice. And oh, wow. Okay. So those are some pretty impressive trophies up there. So that means that you got a lot of first places and things like that. Nice, nice, nice. Excellent. And Daniella, did I mess up? You're a student at UCF?
Yeah, I don't know what happened there, but yeah, my major is health sciences preclinical. So they're all biomed, and I'm health sciences preclinical.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What's your minor?
I don't have a minor. I just have health sciences
Oh, you just
preclinical.
go straight out. That's it.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got you. Understood. Okay. Isha, I talked to you already about that.
No, so I'm actually a Spanish minor, like you mentioned. And I'm also doing a Spanish for health professional certificate, which has been super cool. So I wanted to do Spanish because I loved Spanish in high school. And I also think it's really important. I mean, Spanish is such there's such a big use of Spanish, especially in Florida, that I think if physicians or any healthcare professionals want to effectively communicate with their patients,
Right.
having a command on a second language like Spanish is very helpful. I'm actually doing research right now in like patient provider communication. So I think my love for Spanish and culture and learning it has really brought me to that minor.
Nice, nice, nice. And Parsha, what about you?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I'm a business minor. I think I've always had a somewhat interest for business. In high school, I had my own tutoring business where, I would reach out to students who needed help in certain AP classes or whatnot and just sit down with them, have a one-on-one session. But I think as it relates to medicine, it's often important to look at the economic side of healthcare and see
Right.
in what ways you can make healthcare affordable to the average person.
Right.
I think a lot of times physicians have these big ideals of trying to get quality healthcare for their patients. They sometimes underemphasize the role of economics and, cost when it comes to quality treatment. So when you understand that sort of side of healthcare, I think it helps make that sort of ideal of providing quality treatment for your patients a reality.
So I'm really intrigued. I almost got stuck on it for a minute. So when you were in high school, you created a business.
Yeah, so it was my senior year. I had a little bit of free time, so I figured, what, might as well. I had taken a lot of the classes that the high school had to offer. I just wanted a little bit of spending money, going on spring break. I very honestly just wanted to have some money to go to spring break with, spend a little bit in the summer. Didn't really want to rely on my parents' money that much, so I decided to open up a tutoring business with one of my good friends. So we created like a website. We advertised to students in high school. We actually created some partnerships with teachers in classes, and they would refer to us if their students wanted some extra help, just because a lot of the times teachers wouldn't have that sort of time after school. So they would send them over to us. So we had a couple of teachers that would send students, and yeah, it turned out to be pretty, I had a lot of fun doing it. It was better than just picking up a job for me, at least. So
Right. So why not do something that you love, and then on top of that, be lucrative about it?
Right? Exactly. And we had, on top of that, we also taught some SAT classes and things like that as well. So that allowed us to.
I'm majorly impressed. I am majorly impressed that you would put that together. Did it stay running? Did you leave some people behind to keep that business running after you left high school?
We tried. However, just me being here in Florida, and even my good friend, we were the same grade, so he went off to college as well. It was a little tough, maintaining that business, especially because we were the main people tutoring the students. So we had to, we couldn't really pass it on to someone like that. I wish I think if I would have gone to college in Michigan, we may have maintained the business, but since we both were so far apart.
So did you have to go through permitting and all that other stuff, or did you just?
No, I mean, it depends on how much you make. I don't think our revenue was big enough for for it to be taxable or anything like that. So, I mean, most of it, again, when it comes to the tutoring business, I can get into details, but most of it's a cash business anyway. It's not like it's.
So were you getting it from students, or were you getting it from their parents?
I mean, students would most likely get the money from their parents, but one of the nice things was there was very little initial investment put into the business.
Yeah,
We
because it's
mainly
all
had our
here.
tutoring sessions at the library. You know, it was already things that we had learned, so we didn't really have to like go to classes to learn about things. These are classes that we had already taken. It's
Nice.
very flexible as well. You know, we set up the scheduling with the students to see when they are available. So it wasn't like, you know, a regular job. You have to be there present for certain shifts and things.
Uh-huh.
Even like if, let's just say if I wanted to go on vacation one week or if I was busy with schoolwork or something, it was able to really fit well with the scheduling as well. So
Right, and now if you had kept it going, you could even use Zoom to
yeah,
put things
that's true.
together, right?
I don't think I would have anticipated such a big transition to the virtual world, but I think that
Right.
would have been possible if I kept it going.
Well, I again, like I said, I'm impressed by that. I'm quite sure all of you all have been innovative and done different things to move that narrative forward. But thanks for sharing that
Yeah.
because I think that is probably key to what you just said in terms of your minor and how you can kind of use that to kind of navigate how you be a doctor in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me you all a little bit about the PreMed American Medical Student Association. What's it all about? How do people get involved? Do you have to be PreMed in order to be a member, or could you just have an interest? So tell me a little bit about this actual organization.
When we like table at, you know, any of our, one of the opportunities that UCF offers, we always advertise AMSA as like the one-stop shop for any pre-med. And to answer your question, like you don't have to be pre-med to join. A lot of students just have interest or they explore being a pre-med or what it could be like to be a physician through our organization. And then after that, either they realize they love it or they realize that there's something else that's, you know, a better fit for them. And either of those options are great. So I think one thing that we really focus on in AMSA is giving everyone a very holistic approach to approaching a pre-med or trying to apply to medical school. So we try to give students opportunities that really like develop them as very competitive applicants by offering them like shadowing opportunities, volunteering opportunities, and even teaching them really basic skills like how to interview and how to prepare a resume that really carries your story well. So I think it's a lot of different things put together. There's a professional aspect. We're also a FAMSA, we like to call ourselves, because we're a community. Anyone that is trying to be a health professional knows just how stressful it is. So we really try to foster an environment that is friendly and really collaborative. Like we have a mentor-mentee program so that I can learn from someone older than me and I can help someone younger than me. So I think there's a lot of little things that we do to kind of create a community where people feel like they can learn, they can grow, and like find their best path.
So tell me a little bit about Period.
So yeah, I co-founded Period at UCF in my sophomore year. So Period is actually a national organization, and their goal is to end period poverty and the stigma around menstruation. So it's actually funny how I found Period. I actually went to an AMSA convention in Washington, D.C., and I came across Period there. So, you know, I guess it was meant to be a little bit. But yeah, I absolutely love Period. We're able to, you know, have a community where we can talk about things like what is a period and like why is it something that we don't talk about, or how do we increase access to products? It's so expensive. Each menstruator can spend up to $18,000 in their lifetime just on products. Wow. So for a lot of homeless menstruators, like that's obviously not an option.
Right.
And I know like if any of you in this call have ever donated any food or any, you know, clothing to a homeless shelter, you probably haven't donated pads and tampons. It's often forgot about. So there is such a need for it, but, you know, so little education. So there's such a gap in the way our sex ed is done in public schools today. So we really focus on education, on, you know, fundraising for products and donating them to people in need.
So that's pretty cool. So you as a co-founder are now leaving your mark at UCF once you move forward. And so that's exciting. Thank you for sharing that. Danielle, let me bring you in and ask you about what it's like to be a Latina in this field.
For sure. So yeah, like you mentioned, I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I moved here because of a natural disaster. So back in 2017, Hurricane Maria struck the island, and so UCF was awesome enough to offer students in Puerto Rico the opportunity to come and continue their studies over at UCF with in-state tuition.
Right.
I thought that was an amazing opportunity because I had always wanted to live here. It was just too expensive for me to, to get an education here with being out of state.
Right.
So when that opportunity came up and amidst the adversity, I took it. I took the opportunity. I was lucky enough that my dad got a transfer from his job, so we all, as a family, moved here to Orlando 3 years ago. And so going back to what you're saying, so being a Latina in this field, you really do realize that there's still a very big gap in, especially being a woman and being Latina. Both of them are something that's becoming more common now, but we're still part of that minority. And so also, like, being a Latina, you really do see a lot of like perspectives, and you become more empathetic because you know that being in this country, you're a minority, and you're able to, and being obviously like knowing Spanish and being able to talk to others that maybe don't know English, and then when they hear you talk their own language, you see how like excited they get, especially when it comes to like patients.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do translating at a free clinic in my free time, and so for me that's it's very wholesome. I don't know how to explain it, but it's a very nice like feeling to know that you're helping these people because
Yeah.
they need access to healthcare. They can't get
Right.
it because they don't have a medical plan, but you're there to provide them the free, the free healthcare, and you're able to speak their language, and they just feel so comfortable around you, and they say thank you, and it's just something really nice.
I'm so impressed again. I know Parf is going to come through with something as well, and I'll get to that. But I'm so impressed by the fact that you all are so, and the word I would use is altruistic, is that you will give and give and give. And so you are talking about how you support people in the community outside of yourself. And whether it's tutoring, although it was lucrative, it was something that helped someone to move forward. You're talking about helping women in their health in terms of their care of their bodies and how they can move forward with that. That initiative right there is so exciting to hear about. And then you talking about how you can bring people who have been skeptical of any type of a medical situation, and they see somebody who can speak their language, so to speak, that it brings them in and it makes them feel more comfortable and they can build that rapport there. So phenomenal. Thank you for sharing that. And tell Dad I said hello. And so also, Parth, tell me what's going on with you?
So yeah, something that's going on with me is I've been, like you read in my bio, I've been an immigrant in the United States my entire life. And because of that, as of recently, like when I started to apply to college, I always just viewed myself as American because I've lived here all the way from kindergarten all the way through like all of high school. But when I started applying to colleges, every college I applied to considered me an international student. I had to pay international student fees, even though the only place I've known as home is here.
Yes.
Then when I got into UCF, I started noticing that there were tons of health disparities with immigrants as well.
Yeah.
Like I'm currently working on an advocacy committee where we're trying to reform the 1996 Welfare Reform Act, which essentially caused immigrants who are legal in the United States to have to choose between receiving healthcare in the United States or their citizenship. Because if they go for federal or state funded programs like Medicare or Medicaid, then their visa application gets pushed to the back of their line and they essentially have to wait longer to get their green card. And this is especially impactful because now that we're in a pandemic, because these immigrants had to choose between getting federal health care and choosing between their visa, the immigrants that didn't choose getting access to healthcare, their visa is now in the back of the line. And now even if they want to go get tested for COVID, they can't because they don't have the insurance to do so. They don't have healthcare access if they get COVID to be able to go to the hospitals. And so basically over the pandemic, I've been working with a local medical home that helps uninsured patients receive healthcare. And it's a bunch of like volunteer doctors, volunteer nurses, and they need all the help that they can get. So essentially I got a group of students to be able to go over there and help that medical home out.
I'm afraid of you all. I mean, you all are just doing way, way too much and not enough, but I mean, I'm joking there. You guys are doing so phenomenally well in terms of the things that you're doing. Can you talk a little bit about the immigration and health policy papers you were a part of?
Yeah, so essentially what was going on is the health policy papers that I've written for the two congressional campaigns I've worked on have been targeted towards the 1996 Welfare Reform Act. Because when the pandemic started back in last March, I joined a new campaign in May. And that was something that was really near and dear to my heart because while I haven't had to face like the sharp end of like the immigration stick and my family's been like in a position of privilege where we didn't have to go on like federal healthcare programs. I know a bunch of immigrants who had to have go on those programs and their visa application did get pushed to the back of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like really like just such a disappointment because in America, we say that we value all sorts of people, but immigrants are just such like an overlooked group of population because even during the pandemic, immigrant students by the previous administration, they tried to deport them under the guise of the pandemic. And with that, whenever policies are passed, it's never towards legal immigrants. It's mostly one side bashing on illegal immigrants, the other side trying to help illegal immigrants. And basically because legal immigrants in the United States can't vote, there's no like policies that are passed towards helping them. And so essentially, even though I can't vote in the United States because I'm not a citizen yet, I wanted to make sure that my voice was heard. And that's why I like wrote those health policy papers and immigration papers.
So your pathway to citizenship, you've been here, you said, since you've been going through all this schooling. How many more years do you think that you'll still have to go before you can become a U.S. citizen?
So this is like where I've been in a dilemma for a little bit. So my H4 visa means that I'm on a dependent visa, my father's H1B visa, which is a work visa. But when I turn 21, the United States government doesn't consider me dependent anymore. And so I essentially have two options. Either I can go on a student visa, which is not guaranteed unless I get into medical school, because they're not going to offer me a student visa to stay in the United States for no reason, or I would have to self-deport and basically go back to India, even though I've never been there.
Right. Now that's wow. That's a lot to have to deal with as a person who's not even 21 years old as of yet. And then you think about it, the policies are that people and students can, or kids can stay on their parents' insurance until they're 26 years old, but not if you're an immigrant. You have to self-deport. Phenomenal. Sharing that, because I think that those are the things that are necessary and that you're fighting for that, and being able to find your voice at such a young age to be able to support those efforts is a great thing. And so anything that we can do in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion to support that, please do not hesitate. We can look into how we can be at least beneficial in terms of moving that narrative forward. So your organization does a lot of things. I would suppose, but each of you all kind of have positions within your organization. Can you talk a little bit about what your position entails and what you do within the organization? Whoever would like to start? So there's not a president on right now, right? There's a vice president, which is Isha. So let's start with you.
Yes. So like you said, I'm vice president. So one of my main roles is working with the president and other pre-med organizations to organize something called MSAS, which is the Medical School Admission Symposium. So this is an event that we put on every single year for, I'm sure, years and years. And basically we invite medical schools from all over the country and even Caribbean medical schools to UCF College of Medicine. We basically host an event where pre-meds from the entire state of Florida can come learn about these different medical schools with breakout sessions, tabling events, and medical school student panels. And it pretty much takes a year's worth of planning. Like we started, I think in May or June of last year, and the event happened in February. So it's a very long process. And a lot goes into it. And this year we were actually virtual for the first time.
Okay.
Which was an interesting transition, but I think it worked out pretty well, if I had to say, just because a lot of medical schools preferred it. They didn't have any expenses. They were just able to log in from wherever they were. So that's been a really big aspect of my work this year. And the other is hosting and kind of managing my own directorship position. So each one of us has directors that work under us.
Okay.
So I had 3. I had career development, which is very much focused on like interview skills, resume building, exploring different pathways in medicine. I had research, and that's like helping students get into research positions, how to study research papers, how to present your research, which is an important part of your medical school application.
Right.
And the last being newsletter. So we have a newsletter that goes through our chapter, just because we have over 300 members. So it's hard to get information across sometimes. So if, whoever's interested in writing can definitely participate in that. So those are like my 2 main roles for vice president.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. And Parth, chief of staff.
Yeah.
When I think of that, I immediately go to when I used to watch Grey's Anatomy and all the stuff that they used to do and have to do, and the medical knowledge and everything that was going on. So help me understand what the chief of staff of this organization does.
So like Isha said, I also have directorships I have to manage. So this year I had volunteering, both clinical and non-clinical. And as you know, a lot of volunteering opportunities were actually shut down at the beginning of this year because of the pandemic. And a lot of organizations like we used to work with last year, like we used to work with this Feeding the Homeless organization back in downtown, because of the pandemic, unfortunately, they were shut down. And a lot of other organizations were too. However, when the fall came around, it was kind of a struggle for me and my directors to be able to find volunteering opportunities. So we had, because some people as pre-meds, like we need volunteering, but some people were not in Orlando. Some people weren't in the Orlando area because classes were hybrid. Some classes were fully asynchronous on Zoom.
Right.
So we essentially had to cater to all of our members in PreMed AMSA. So we came up with a couple in-person volunteering events. We partnered up with Second Harvest Food Bank, Mission Market Orlando. And then we also came up with our own virtual volunteering events like Cards for Care, where essentially we made cards for a different department of the hospital each and every single week so that we could provide frontline workers with like support that they need to get through the pandemic as well. I also ran our mentorship program this year that Isha was talking about previously. Okay. And basically we had to like pair mentors and mentees up to make sure like each of them were getting the best fit of like in order to get into medical school, because we do have a lot of upperclassmen in this club who have a lot of experience, and all of the freshmen, underclassmen, and like sophomore underclassmen really just soak up all that information that they can get. So it was tough this year because we had a lot more mentees come in than mentors, because we despite like what we thought, a lot more people joined the club because it was more accessible. Because over Zoom, you could join the meeting whenever, you didn't have to leave your house. And so we had a lot more people join. So this year was kind of a struggle where like we had a lot more mentees, but thankfully the e-board was really good and they all agreed to take on 4 mentees each, which was, I know it was tough for them, but it worked out in the end. So I'm pretty happy about that. And I also ran our Relay for Life team. You know what Relay for Life is at UCF. And so basically I helped our team captains out with like raising money and stuff. And we actually raised the most money this year that we've raised in any year of PreMed AMSA before, which was really, really cool.
So again, I mean, I keep hearing nothing but impressiveness coming from you all. How do you stay on top of your grades doing all of that?
I would say Google Calendar is my best friend.
Calendar.
Every Sunday I go into my Google Calendar, I outline all the meetings I have and what I have to do that week, like assignments that are due, what tests I have coming up. And then with that, I essentially can like make blocks for just studying. And that helps me like really just like prioritize it. So I'm like, okay, I have a block for you from 1 to 4 p.m. During that block of time, I'm going to be doing nothing but studying. But then at 4:30, I have another meeting I have coming up. So I'll take a 30-minute break. I'll get ready for the meeting and I'll hop on. Zoom has made it a lot easier. I don't have to like drive anywhere or anything.
Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So Daniella, secretary, what led you there?
Yeah, so with secretary, I feel like I have a lot of interaction with a lot of new members. I make sure to advertise our club, recruit, things like that. So one of the things that I had like in my position, there's an event that we coordinate every year. It's called Coffee with the Comm. So this event always happens at the UCF College of Medicine. And so basically it's always called Coffee with the Comm because we bring some donuts, we bring coffee, and then we have like a medical student panel. They just like, we do like pre-made questions just to ask medical students and for us to give them give us advice. We talk with like the deans of admissions. They give us a tour around the entire College of Medicine. It's just like a really nice time that we have. Obviously this year, this event was it was through Zoom. We had it back in October. But even then, we had a lot of medical students that were willing to come out to our Zoom meeting and, just answer the questions that we had about, what's medical school like, just like what's your day-to-day, things like that. So that was a really nice event to be able to plan and things like that. And so under my directors, I have media relations, which is one of the most important ones, I think, in our club, because like we said before, we have a lot of members, and through our social media, that's where everyone knows, like, okay, what is your club about? These are the events that are happening this week. Okay. So it's been a really great way to recruit people into our club, send out weekly events. I also, like, through my email, that's where I would send out the newsletter that Isha's newsletter directors did. So I sent it out. We have a website, and so in our website we have a subscription list, and that's where people can subscribe to our emails, and that's where I send them all out. There's currently about 600 people on that list, which is crazy. But it's also,
so are there alumni on there as well?
You can go on our website, and if you want to subscribe to our emails, just scroll all the way down to our webpage, and you can subscribe to our emails, and you'll get all of our weekly newsletters.
So the people who are on there, though, are they past students, alumni from the organization and things?
Yeah, they're still there, so they should still be getting, like, my emails and things like that.
Do you all send a lot of spam stuff? Because I try to stay away from emails.
Oh, it's really just a weekly email. It's
you're not selling my information to somebody. Let me ask Parshva first, but you're not selling my information so that you get more money for the organization.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm just kidding, because you're the treasurer.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, and so also I have Nithon, which was my favorite directorship that I had. It's something similar to Relay. So in Nithon, you raise money for the Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children. And I had 2 co-captains next to me. And so all year we were recruiting people onto our team, fundraising for the whole thing. And, I was really proud that we had this event back in March. And our group was able to fundraise $6,000, which is obviously a lot, like, given the pandemic, everything that's happened. We never met in person. We only met in person during our main event because of everything that was happening. All of our team captain meetings, everything was just online. And even with that, like, all the team members were super enthusiastic, very willing to fundraise for these kids. And I was honestly super impressed, really happy with that.
Well, excellent.
Yeah. And so my last directorship was, what was it? I blanked out. So I had media relations, Nithon, and socials. So socials was our last directorship that we had. And so what they wanted to do was obviously integrate everyone into becoming a family in our organization. So they got very creative because we couldn't do events in person. So they had these, like, study events where we just go on Zoom, put on some music, and just, like, talk with each other and study and things like that, which is obviously a really nice event that we used to have in person, but we made it work for Zoom. And they would do stress relief workshops. They also went to, like, other academics things. So sometimes they would do, like, workshops on, like, how to schedule your classes, how to take care of yourself mentally, physically. So it was a variety of things, and it was really nice to work with all of them.
All right, excellent. So I have something for you all. I need you all to start working on this. So put it on your calendars. On January 15th and 16th, there you go. On January 15th and 16th, we at the Office of Diversity and Inclusion are putting together a cultural festival and diversity parade. And during this time, we are going to have floats and things of that nature. And I would love to see a float from you all on the main stage, right? And so talking about what you all do with your advocacy and all the things that you're doing. So please consider that. So I say all that, and I'm going to transition over to Parshva, who is the treasurer, who's going to help you all build that float with the resources that he's going to bring in. But I have to laugh because I'm like, of course, you would be the treasurer.
Yeah, I guess the business minor goes well with the being treasurer thing. But in terms of my role, a lot of the roles of treasurer kind of stay common between organizations, just dealing with funds and membership dues, budgeting, things like that. But the things that really excite me is maximizing the member resources to provide benefits for them. So some of the things that we offer to our members are heavily discounted MCAT prices. So MCAT, obviously, like as a pre-med student, almost all pre-med students have to take the MCAT, and it can be quite expensive getting like a prep course or something like that. So as AMSA members, we usually offer our members 50% discounts on testing courses and things like that. We have a partnership with Kaplan, so they offer us some deals and things like that. Another thing that we do, we couldn't really implement it this year, but we usually have an annual service trip where we go to a country like Peru or Haiti, etc. And this year, what we wanted to implement was a scholarship program. So if you attend a certain amount of workshops, attend certain fundraisers, you would have a majority of your trip covered. Obviously, due to the pandemic, that couldn't pan out. Another thing, as Isha mentioned, I'm in charge of of coordinating the AMSA convention that our members get to go to. So we interview AMSA members, see how passionate and excited they are about the convention and if they can represent AMSA in the best light. And we pick around 10 students to come with us, and we go to DC. And we also have a advocacy day there as well, where we advocate for certain healthcare topics that we're really passionate about. So those are some of the things that I'm excited. In terms of my directorships, I think all e-board members have a number of directorships. Directorship that was under me was marketing. So one of the things that we did as marketing was merchandise. So usually, AMSA merch has been something that has been there, but we decided to take it to the next level and really try to make some high quality merch for our members this year. We came out with a collection in fall and a collection in spring. Fall, we had the theme of like Spirit Splash, because we knew that due to the pandemic, a lot of people wouldn't be able to go to the actual Spirit Splash. So we came up with Spirit Splash themed merch. We gave a, AMSA edition rubber duck along with any sort of purchase that you made.
Any of that close by? Any of that close by? Any of your, and you have it in your room anywhere? Any of the merch?
I can actually get the merch real quick if you give me like 2 seconds.
Well, we could bring it. We'll finish this conversation and then you can go run and get it.
Okay, sure. Yeah. So create a merch line. We were super excited about that. So we try our best to find unique ways to market AMSA to other people, and also make sure that people in AMSA are proud to be a part of this club. We made some community partnerships as well with local businesses and things like that. So for partial proceeds and just raising funds in that manner. So yeah, I think that those are some of the general roles and responsibilities of being a treasurer, and it was a lot of fun this year.
So you brought up something that I've been toying around in my head for the next couple of days. I just got an email about doing a study abroad. Study abroad is hoping to come back summer of 2022. Just really quickly, are you all graduating anytime soon? Who's graduating like before? Oh, that's right. You did say that you were leaving this semester. Who's going to be around next summer still taking classes? Nice. So listen, I have this idea, right? So I've been having study abroad opportunities, and where I would like to go and have been going is to South Africa. And the topic that I've been using or we've been benefiting students with is women's issues, right? There's a lot of domestic violence and things along those lines that is coming from that region of the world. And so I'm wondering how I can partner with you all to possibly think about how we can get more students involved to go on the study abroad experience, to be able to have something that would be on their resume, but also that they'll get some education for maybe in their field by going to another country and seeing what's going on there. Is that something that you all partner people with folks with? And what would that look like if I was able to talk you into on a podcast, joining in with that type of an opportunity?
I mean, I don't think it's been done before, but that's what we're all about, is trying to find new opportunities. Like last year was the first year we ever did a mission trip. So I think we're still kind of exploring different options. And I think a study abroad is super interesting. I know I've always wanted to do a study abroad, and then with COVID, things just kind of changed. But I think there's a lot of people that would be really interested in, doing work in women's health and trying to find, unique ways that you can work on that in another country. So I think with the right resources and, maybe like a scholarship or something like that, PreMed students would definitely be interested.
Well, I'm definitely going to try to talk you all into doing something along those lines. And I think Parsha went and got some merch. So let me see what you got. What you bring
Yeah,
back?
so I got our signature shirt that really sold out last year. Here's the front of
That's
it,
nice.
and then here's the back. As you can
Wow.
see, it's loosely based off of the Spirit Splash and the Duck.
Right.
So
You
this
sold them all out already.
Huh?
You sold them out. You sold them all out already.
A lot of them, yeah.
Oh, a lot of them. Okay,
like, we sold out all the mediums. We still have a couple of larges and things like that. But
all right, we'll have to talk
offline.
We'll talk offline.
Sure.
See if I can grab some of your merch.
Definitely.
What other things you have? That's Daniella, you looked like you were going to say something.
Oh, no, I wasn't going to say anything right now.
Oh, okay. No worries. I thought you were going to share some things as well. So it seems like really exciting to be a part of this organization because now you have people that you can kind of have as your, I guess, people you can lean on, people that you can go to when you're having issues, and I mean, whether it's related to classes or things along those lines. So you all have pretty much said pre-med, and you said you want to be physicians. Can you tell me if you have something a little bit further in your thinking as to what type of physician you want to be?
I personally want to be a pediatric oncologist.
Okay.
So it's a children's cancer doctor.
Okay.
And basically, I really like just working with kids. And I've been working with the Children's Cancer Foundation over at Basecamp as their care coordinator for the past 2 years.
Of course you would be. Of course you would be.
Yeah. It's just something I've really been passionate about ever since high school because back when I was volunteering in high school, I didn't know I wanted to be a physician, but my mom knew an RN at a local hospital here. And I was essentially volunteering with their child life department in their oncology ward. And what I saw was that most of the time, the children who are there, they're there for an extended period of time. And their parents aren't coming in because they have to work to pay off the hospital bills. And they're just sitting there by themselves all the time. And I realized like the only people who are going to be there for those children are the doctors and the volunteers and the nurses at the hospital. And that's something that really just like pushed me because like these kids are going through like the hardest time that they'll probably face in their entire life, going through battles with cancer. And that just really hit hard for me because my grandpa died of cancer a couple of years before that. And it's something that I've really just like stuck close to me in my heart and I've been trying to pursue to do. So
I'm sorry to hear about your grandfather, but I do know that a lot of things that we're attracted to is because of our own personal experiences with that. And so thank you for sharing that. What are some of the other goals that you all have?
So I want to be a pediatric as well. I've always thought about it. I've really thought of, working with kids. It wasn't until I moved here to Orlando where I had these experiences that really made me realize, yes, this is what I want to do. Probably like 2 or 3 months after moving, I found an organization that was called a 4-Day Foundation. And what they did was that they raised money to go and do hospital visits to different hospitals. And then they would do this like day where the kids in the oncology unit, you could go, and for girls, like you could do their makeup, you can do like their nails. For kids, they would do like little capes. It was just like an event for the kids to, just like forget about like the situation that they're currently in and, just have fun for a while. I had the opportunity of doing that once, having a little visit, and it really stuck to my heart to this day. I still think about it and I really like that experience. Obviously working with Nightthon, being able, like as being part of Nightthon, we learned that we have each team has a family assigned to them. It's a family that was impacted some way in the Arnold Palmer Hospital for Children. This year, my team had a girl that she had spina bifida, like her mom knew about it when she was still pregnant. And she was the first child that was done in utero surgery to fix that spina bifida. And being able to meet that family, meet that girl that has been developing greatly, like that, I just thought about that. And I was like, I really want to be the pediatric that's like in charge of those miracles. So, those are just like different experiences that have like really impacted me. And it's just like reaffirming that that's what I want to do.
Phenomenal. And so you're leaving us for what? What's next for you once you graduate?
Yeah, so right now in May, I will be applying to medical school because that's when the new cycle opens up. It's a pretty lengthy process. It's a complete year because you have to wait for your interviews and things like that. So I will be applying at the end of May, and just waiting for that response. Just that time that's just gonna be like waiting and waiting to get those interviews. But in the meanwhile, I'm gonna find a job as either like a medical scribe or a medical assistant, just to keep on getting those clinical experiences, and hopefully travel. Just
Yeah. So is that the normal route for people who are going into med school, that they have to wait until they get to a certain point in their undergraduate career and then they seek it all out?
Yeah, there's really like no like exact way they have to go about it. The traditional route is applying during your junior year, so that when you end your college years, you go straight into medical school.
Right.
But it's become more of a norm to take gap years. They're called gap years or growth years, what you want to call it. So you spend like just that year, just after you graduate, working on yourself. If you have deficiencies in your applications, anything that you want to improve, you can do that. But yeah, there's really no like normal way to go about it.
Understood. Thank you. Harf, what about you? What's your next step?
So I'm not graduating for another 2 years. Next year I will be applying though in the next application cycle for medical school. Like I said, I need to get into medical school so that I don't get deported.
Right.
That is definitely a big goal of mine. But in lighter news for this summer, I recently lined up a clinical internship where I'm going to be working with a local medical home in order to provide like uninsured patients like primary care. Because like as long as like there's not a full rollout of vaccines, there's still people who are getting COVID who are uninsured.
Right.
So that's something I'm going to be working on. I recently also just got a research position at a lab at the College of Medicine, where I'm going to be studying like neurodegenerative diseases and demyelination of neurons.
Okay. So the type of doctor you want to become?
I want to be a pediatric oncologist.
Okay. Did I ask you that already?
Yes.
You know what? I'm sorry. You're right. I don't know why I did that. Okay, I'll move on. Isha.
So no surprise, I want to be an OBGYN in light of what I've mentioned earlier. Obviously, period has played a really big role in my interest in reproductive health. I've also shadowed 3 OBGYNs and a perinatologist, which is a high risk pregnancy physician. So I love everything about it, and I'm hopefully will end up that way soon. I'm applying to med school this summer, similar to Daniella. So we start in May. So right now I'm just trying to get everything together, get my essays written, and hopefully have a successful outcome and get interviews for medical school.
Okay, nice. So then I must have not asked Parsha.
Yeah, so I think I don't necessarily have a set specialty that my mind is set on. I think for me, like I'm curious about all aspects of medicine, and that's really why I got into the field, because medicine as a whole was really fascinating to me. I've had some experiences, shadowing orthopedic surgeons, family medicine doctors. And I think different parts of their profession appeal to me. Like, family physician has, I feel, a little bit more of a work-life balance than someone like an orthopedic surgeon. But I also think the orthopedic surgeon has like can have a greater impact to a certain extent, and like has a more specialized, caters towards a more specialized need. Typically, like the family physician usually just then not outsources but refers to a more specialized doctor once they've identified where the problem is. So there are pros and cons to both of the professions that I've witnessed, but I'm kind of going into medical school with a little bit more of an open mind, seeing through my rotations what I really am interested in, and then really basing my decision off of that. So, and similar to Isha and Daniella, I'll also be applying this cycle in May, and we'll see how it goes this year. So
the typical pathway once you are in med school is what, about 4 years of something, and then you go to 4 years of something else. And so is it a total of like 8 years? Is it 12 years? How many years?
So there's 4 years of medical school. And if you want to do like MD, PhD or MD, MBA, that may take more time. So I know MD, PhD is 6 years. I'm looking towards doing an MD, MBA, so that's 5 years. And then once you are done with that, you go into residency. So that's you have to match into a hospital residency program. I believe that most residencies can range from 2 years to 4 years, depending on what specialty you are planning to get into. And then if you want to go into surgery, there's further specialization on top of that, which is another year or two. So it really depends on the process. I'd say at least once you're in medical school, probably 6 years until you're an actual practicing physician. Max maybe 8 years or 8 to 10 years more. So it really depends on how specialized you want to get into and what field you're really interested in.
You know, it's really interesting, and I'm going to get really gross right now. And the reason why is because I'm going to talk about blood and gore and all that other stuff. And that, has that ever been something that has hindered you, or you thought about whether or not this is something that you can do? And the reason why I asked this question is because, and I have never watched this show, but I talked to a couple of people who have. There's a show, and I don't know why anybody would want to be this doctor, but there are people who are these doctors, right? And it's called Pimple Popper or whatever, something like that. You ever heard of that? And they have to do all these different lesions and whatever, and so I don't understand it, but that would not be the doctor moniker or the hat that I would want to wear. But so obviously people are led to these different things because of what you all talked about, internships and opportunities and things along those lines. And I'm guessing once you're in it, it's not as bad as it looks as a person who's a lay person, but how do you get prepared to be able to do those things that you know are leaning towards, opening up someone or perhaps doing something along those lines?
So if I were to talk like about me personally, I think everyone has this sort of natural reaction to seeing blood or like bodily fluids, et cetera. I don't think anyone here is completely desensitized or immune to it. But I believe that when you get into like understanding what's going on and actually learning about like, okay, why is this happening to that person, you view it differently. You don't view it anymore as something that's gross and disgusting. When you actually understand what's going on, you view it sort of as a problem, and your curiosity for it, you're able to overlook the sort of visceral, gross reaction that you may have initially, because now you understand what's going on. You understand why this is happening the way it is. And I felt that more and more as I've been learning, that I view it with a different lens than someone who doesn't know what's going on. They view it just as, oh, it's like a bloody, gross mess. I view it as, okay, so now platelets are forming here, and now there's going to be like this tissue damage and things like that. And you view it from a more academic,
medical
perspective rather than like a visual aesthetic perspective.
Okay, all right. That's I'll accept that. Anyone want to add to that?
I think for me, it's a lot of it comes down to being empathetic, which is something that I think you can guide people to learn empathy, but I think a lot of it is based on your experiences.
But they talk about bedside manner so much with you all doctors.
Right, exactly. And I don't even think it has to be like medical experiences. I think doing little things like just volunteering, it doesn't have to be medically related, or, helping out a sibling or helping out someone in need, or trying to understand what someone is going through. Those are all really small examples of empathy. And I think that when you then go into a patient room and you see someone who is going through, some kind of symptom or some kind of condition that could be, gory, or for an average, person, you kind of look past and you look at the patient itself. Okay. And I think you learn to look more at how does that make them feel, and how are they experiencing that, and what's going through their head, which I think is like one of the best aspects of being a physician, is that you really connect with people at their worst times. No one wants to be in a hospital. No one is excited to see their physicians. Even if it's just a routine checkup, no one is excited. Yeah. I know, like, I shadow a physician right now, and he always says, like, when people get their blood pressure taken in a clinic, he like has to factor that in because there's such a white coat syndrome. Like, no one likes being in that situation. So going to a doctor is oftentimes a scary or a nerve-wracking situation. Wow. So I think realizing what an impact you can have on people.
Well, it's scary until you have to do the copay. You have to pull up your, daggone it, really? This time too?
Right, exactly. So
I'm just messing with you.
But
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I can also add to that. So I am doing like it. I say like it all comes down to passion. Like, if this is what we really want to do, all comes down, like Isha said, being empathetic, having that passion for wanting to, take care of this person, have their health in your hands, and being able to provide that health care that they need. I'm currently like a medical assistant, so I really have been having that like patient to patient interaction very closely. And it's very interesting just to see like how diverse people are, how many experiences they have, because they don't know you, but they start talking to you like if they know your entire life. Like sometimes they just need someone to talk to, and you can really tell when you're in the room. Like you're just telling them like, oh hey, like why are you here today? And like okay, they tell you, but then sometimes that you know that they really just want to talk to you, and they start talking about their life experiences, things like that, and they just see you there, and you're just there listening, and they're appreciative of that. So yeah, I feel like that's just one of the big aspects, and kind of like one of the big satisfactions that you get as being like a healthcare provider.
Nice. I think Parth, you're the next one in line here.
So yeah, I used to be really squeamish about like blood and stuff back before I started working in a hospital. But like Parsha said, like the more you learn about it and the more you like do these procedures, you like see why they're done. You see that they're helping people, because like the doctor's like Hippocratic oath is to do no harm. And you like sticking a needle in someone's arm, you're not hurting them, you're helping them. And when you think about it that way, you're like, it's not as bad, because you're not essentially just trying to hurt them in a sense. You're literally trying to help them. And with that, like Isha said, like, yeah, white coat syndrome is a really big thing. And that's something that like we need to tackle. But like, I feel like us as physicians, since we know like the procedures that we're doing, and we know like, hey, this procedure is going to be helping this patient out in this way, and we know like what could go wrong, we can know like how to fix what goes wrong, because that's all the aspects of like going to medical school and like figuring out what to do if something does go awry. You need to be able to be prepared for it. And that's why I think like you kind of alleviate all of that when you get more educated about like the medical field, and like you learn more about the procedures that you do, because with that sense, you're basically alleviating like, oh, I'm not hurting this patient in any way, because that's where the squeamish comes from. You're like, oh, me sticking a needle in someone's arm is hurting them. But you're like, no, if you know exactly where to put it, and you know like where to stick the needle in so that it's not hitting any arteries and not hitting any veins, and you're basically getting it in, then you know like, hey, I'm doing this patient a justice. I'm essentially helping them out.
So anyone have surgery on their mind? I mean, is there something that any of your professions say you know that you're leading towards doing what you're doing so that you can be a surgeon as well? I saw Daniella's bill just like this just now. So
I think I'd definitely be open to it personally. I mean, when I shadowed orthopedic surgery, I really like, it's so cool that they get to go on such a deeper level, and be able to like solve a lot of the problems at the core, at the root of the issue. So I definitely wouldn't be opposed to it. It's not like I have my mind 100% set on it, but if I was leaning towards one way or the other, I would definitely be leaning more towards, becoming a surgeon. But again, that's just what I want. But then if my step 1, step 2 scores aren't where it needs to be, or if I, don't get don't do as well in the rotations as I need to be that way, then that's a different story. I think it's one thing to want it, but it's another thing to be qualified enough and be prepared enough to actually be able to pursue that sort of position.
Nice. So we'll have to come back and talk about the step 1 and step 2 and the rotations and all that other stuff, but we've run out of time. And I just enjoyed hanging out with you all and learning from you all, and finding out just how innovative you have all been in your careers so far, to kind of do what you're doing. And so I'm definitely going to reach out to you all to tap in about this study abroad opportunity. I would love that. And I also want you all to really consider building a float with your hands, your doctor hands, to be in the parade, the diversity parade in January of 2022. So I'm looking forward to that as well. You all have been great. I hope you had a good time today, being a part of this. It's really been fun hearing your journey and what you all have been doing. I'm so impressed, I say it again, with what you have done, not only in the classroom, but leading into going and being a part of the classroom structure. And so you should be very proud. Your family should be very proud. And Parth, if there's anything that I can do with regards to your supporting you as you're moving forward and all that, please do not hesitate. And we'll try to see what we can do to support that. But it's exciting. Now I'm just excited to see where you all end up, right? Maybe you'll be my physician or somebody I know's physician moving forward. So thank you for you all being here today and telling me a little bit about your organization. And now that we've built this kinship, I'm going to tap in. So I'm sorry, but that's what's going to happen. You just made it sound so good, and I know you are so busy that you're making it happen. So good luck with the rest of the semester. First of all, Daniella, congratulations on moving forward and graduating, especially after coming from Puerto Rico and dealing with all that to get here and to be at this stage of the game is phenomenal. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
No worries, no worries. And just your organization sounds really exciting and impressive, the work that you're doing. Please share some of that stuff that you're doing. We can put it on our website to support and maybe get you into our rotation with our social media as well. But continue doing what you're doing, and we'll see you next time, all right? We have our next show next week on Wednesday. It's going to be with our ombudsman officer, Sharia Trivedi. And so we're going to move on from the medical side of the house to what we do at UCF in terms of making sure that everybody is safe and being able to get their concerns met. So we're going to shift a little bit gears on next Wednesday, but we thank you all for being here today. I think you've done a world of good in terms of what medicine means to the world. We did a show last week, or not last week, on last Wednesday on World Health Day, or I think that was the United Health Day or World Health Day. And you guys helped to kind of blend into that in terms of what you're all doing, your passion moving forward. And so thank you so much. It's been a great day, and we'll see you next time, okay?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
It was
Dr.
great having you all. It was great having you all.
We're all clear.
Wow, you all are absolutely phenomenal. Everything that you're all doing. I mean, each and every one of you on your own right, you just making it happen. So